Hello everyone. In today's video, I have come with another poem that is written by Alfred Tennyson. The name of the poem is Break, Break, Break. So let's know a few important things about the poet. Alfred Tennyson was born in 1809 and he died in 1892. He was a representative figure of the Victorian age in literature. He was the poet laureate during much of Queen Victoria's reign. He served in that position from 1850 to 1892 until his death, and he is the longest serving poet laureate in history. He was awarded the Chancellor's Gold Medal at Cambridge in 1829 for his poem Timbuktu. Some of his notable works are In Memoriam, Idylls of the King, Ulysses, Tithonus, Crossing the Bar, The Lady of Shalott, and Break, Break, Break. So now let us move on to the poem. Before reading the poem and going into the line by line analysis of the poem, let us know a few important facts about the genesis of the poem. So this poem was written by Tennyson in 1835 and it was published in 1842. This poem is an elegiac lament on the death of his dear friend Arthur Henry Hallam, who was a fellow poet and student at Trinity College, Cambridge. Hallam died of a stroke at the age of 22. Hallam has been referred to as AHH in his most famous work In Memoriam, which was also written to commemorate the death of his dear friend Hallam. The poem is written in 4 stanzas. This poem, that is the Break, 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 this is written in 4 stanzas of 4 lines each. Such stanzas are called quatrains. So this poem actually consists of 4 quatrains. The poem depicts the poet's feelings of loss and isolation at the loss of his dear friend. On a deeper level, this poem is a meditation on the themes of death, transitoriness of human existence, and the destructive power of nature and time to which everyone has to surrender. Now, let us move on to the line by line analysis of the poem. So, lines 1 to 4. Break, break, break on thy cold grey stones, O sea, and I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Here, the poet imagines himself to be standing near the cliff on the seashore. He addresses the sea waves lashing the rocks and wishes that the waves of his profound personal grief caused by the death of his dear friend Hallam would break his inability to speak out or the inarticulateness in his heart so that he could express the grief of his heart easily. The poet wishes that the sea waves break the cold grey stones of the cliff. The cold grey stones are here symbolic of the inexpressible grief that has hardened the poet's heart like a stone. This coldness is also symbolic of lifelessness or death. So, the grief that has been caused by the loss of his dear friend Hallam has made the poet almost lifeless or devoid of life. Lines 5 to 8. Oh, well for the fisherman's boy that he shouts with his sister at play. Oh, well for the sailor lad that he sings in his boat on the bay. So the restless, grief-stricken poet here finds the fisherman's boy, his sister, and the sailor lad enjoying their life, laughing, shouting, and singing cheerfully. It seems that life goes on all around the poet, only his life has come to a standstill. He cannot enjoy the precious moments of his life. The moment he lost his friend Hallam, from then on he has become a kind of lifeless, uh, stony person. The inability of the poet to express his grief or emotions in the first stanza has been contrasted with the free flow of emotions of the fisherman's boy in his shouting and that of the sailor lad in his singing in the second stanza. Here you have seen that the fisherman's boy is playing with his sister. So, this play or playfulness is also symbolic of life. So, it seems that life flows on everywhere else, but for the poet, it has ceased to exist. The poet also wants to experience this carefree life where he can articulate himself the way he wants, but he is unable to do so. He cannot express the profundity of his grief, the intensity of his pain, and that's why he suffers all the more. Lines 9 to 12. And the stately ships go on to their heaven under the hill, but oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. The poet looks at the stately or majestic ships moving towards their destination under the hill. But he has no such destination. He has nowhere to go. He finds himself a rudderless ship in the absence of Hallam. He finds himself or he finds his life to be purposeless. He cannot understand what to do in future without anybody near him, without a dear friend like Hallam standing beside him. For a moment, these ships capture the attention of the poet who finds the rhythm of life in the movement of these ships. And these ships have a definite purpose. They know where to go, and that is why they are moving towards their destination. But this realization has intensified his sense of loss as he finds himself purposeless, aimless in the vast sea of life in the absence of his dear friend. He thinks of the vanished hand and the silent voice of his friend. Lines 13 to 16. Break, break, break at the foot of thy crags, O sea, but the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back to me. So, in the final stanza, the poet comes to the painful realization of the permanence of his loss. He realizes that even if he could express the grief of his heart, he would never experience the tender grace of the day that he had once experienced with his dear friend. So he addresses the waves again and asks them to break at the foot of the crags. He no longer requests the waves to help him express the sorrow, the pain of his heart. Instead, he accepts his fate with equanimity. So the poem opens with a sense of bewilderment when the poet was at a loss. He couldn't express the intensity of his pain, his grief, and he keeps on requesting the sea to enable him to express himself. But towards the end of the poem, in the final stanza, the poet realizes that even if he could express, he would never get back the tender days, the tender grace that he had once experienced with Hallam, with his dear friend. So now he realizes the transitoriness of human existence. In the final stanza, he has become calm and composed. He understands that life cannot go on forever, and he accepts his fate, his friend's death, with a sense of equanimity. So, with this, we have come to the end of the poem. I hope this helps you in analyzing the poem. Thank you for watching the video. And if you find this video useful, kindly like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video, which will cover the important MCQs from this poem. Thank you so much. All the best, everyone.